How are you, my friend?
I'm all right. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. I have one of the interviews ran late.
Hey, that's okay. Welcome to Western Australia. Excuse the voice. I've got the horrible flu at the minute, so it might be a bit hard to understand my Nottinghamshire accent.
Nottinghamshire, indeed.
Just just down the road.
Just down the road from where I was. Yeah, nice to meet you. Uh, I feel better.
Thank you. Wonderful to have you over again. But I hear that this time it's going to be electric.
Yeah, the word electric is loaded though because it implies it's going to be with a big band and drums. It's not. It's just solo, but with an electric guitar. So it's a different show. I really don't know exactly how it's going to be yet. I'm practicing a lot, but I still don't have anything like a set list yet. Some of the songs work easily with the acoustic arrangement change ever so slightly. Some of them are going to need overhauls. Some of them aren't going to make it, and hopefully there'll be quite a few songs I haven't played for a while that'll be the acoustic, the electrical will make them possibilities when they weren't really possibilities with the acoustic.
Oh, cool. I mean, I guess the good thing is we've got 40 years of great music to draw from for the set list. So.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I mean, that must be one of the hardest things, though, especially when you're looking at things from a different direction. You're still experimenting and trying things out to try and pull from your catalog. Are there any songs that you think that always should have been in my set when you stumble across one or two?
Uh, you know, the only thing that I sometimes feel is there are certain songs that I didn't play for a long time because I just thought they would be impossible solo. I thought they needed the band, and I was wrong on almost every occasion. Almost every song, if it's a decent song,
Yeah.
can transfer to just one instrument to play it if you work hard enough on the arrangement. Now, one of the things that you sometimes find out when you break the song down to just one instrument is that it's not really a very good song. And it might be a nice recording, it might be a lovely production, but when you take away all that, there's not much left. And there's a few songs like that.
Yeah, Steve Marriott, one of my heroes, always said that a great song's a great song. It doesn't matter how you dress it up. The fundamental spark or energy will always be there. And I think I can't imagine many of your songs not leaving you feeling that way.
Well, yeah, but there's different types of energy. Like, the energy that the recording of Perfect Skin has,
Mm.
or the energy that the recording of Rattlesnakes has, is not a kind of energy that I can put out as a solo guy on stage. So I have to try and find other ways to play them if I want to play those songs. And I
Yeah.
don't want to look like an old guy out of breath trying to sound 23.
But I mean, I guess things like Lost Weekend and Perfect Skin, stuff like that, they were always, for me at least, fundamentally guitar driven songs anyway. So
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
sure.
Most of the songs are most of the songs from the early years are mostly guitar driven. Not all of them. Blair wrote quite a few of them on the piano or on the keyboard, but mostly guitar. And the challenge last year with this latest album was how the hell do I play some of these things live when even the ones that sound like they've got guitars on Pain, those aren't played guitars. Those are guitars that have been chopped up and sampled and pulled all over the place to make them sound the way they ultimately sound. I remember when we were trying to play Warm by the Fire with the band in the UK on the last tour. Neil had come up with what he thought I'd played the guitar. I was like, no, it's nothing like that at all. It's just, and we eventually gave up. We couldn't get it to sound the way it was on the record. And we only figured out how to play it with the band on the second tour we did after I'd figured out that I could actually play it on acoustic. And it actually works better if I just broke it down to a very simple strum on acoustic. And that ended up being the way that the band could play it. I wish the band was able to follow me around the world at all times, but the numbers don't add up outside of London and Manchester and Glasgow and Paris.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned On Pain there, which is one of my favorite recent songs, and the difficulties of translating this to that sort of approach. So the question is, are you going to put it in there? Has it worked?
Well, On Pain was a really funny example because I felt like On Pain was it was the title song for a good reason. I felt like
Mm.
it was the key song on the record. But when I wrote it, it was one of the very rare songs that I wrote without knowing any what kind of chords were involved. I just sang the melody into my voice recorder without chords on the guitar or the piano or anything. I just had the melody in my head. So I had that, and then I started working on this sort of music concrete stuff with granular sounds,
Yeah,
and then again, I still didn't know what chords were being used, if there were any chords at all. I put these things together, and it all started to go quite well. And then it was only when I finally had to figure out what the bass notes were that I was like, okay, yeah, these are exactly the same fucking chords I always use. Yeah. So when it came to playing On Pain live, um, I actually took a template of another song and sort of readapted the way that guitar worked and played On Pain on top of it. So I think it works really well,
yeah.
and um, and I think it'll translate to electric. Okay.
Excellent. So, but doing something like this, I guess, is part necessity and part experimentation. Would it be fair to say?
Yeah, it is, and it's really fun when you find a way to play a song solo that you weren't sure if there'd be any way to do it. Like, for example, the Idiot
Yeah,
on
yeah,
on the new record. Well, the key to that was it's in F, but obviously F's a very difficult key on the guitar. So I just started playing it in E, and then I realized that chord, ding, 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 those notes are not the easiest chord to play on the guitar, but I can kind of stretch. And I was just like, oh, I never played a song with that chord before. That's quite nice. And all of a sudden, I have a way to play the Idiot live that works in a very different way to the record, but it still carries the melody perfectly well. So yeah, those type of, I mean, it's my job.
yeah,
That's my job to find a way to play. And I don't want to go out on tour with a new album and not play,
yeah, yeah,
or only play one song from the record. I'll probably only be playing two or three songs from the record on in Australia, but if I could find a way to play more of what you are, I'd really be happy. But that's probably my favorite lyric on the record, and I've
yeah,
but that's a real struggle because if you break it down to just those chords that are under the arpeggio, the chords themselves are quite banal.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always remember, like in the early days, one of the things I most loved about Lloyd Cole and the Commotions was your lyrics. I love the fact that there were so many pop references and stuff like that in there. And I remember my dad, like I literally can remember this as as clear as day. My dad played me your first album, and he was asking me about all these references to all these various people that are in there because I was like a uni student and stuff like that. I'd read people like Norman Mailer and stuff like that as well. And I know that obviously the idiot that you mentioned there is a wonderful reference to Iggy and David. Is it different looking back now? I mean, obviously your primal influences in 1984, have they changed much since over the last 40 years?
No, I mean, the things that I think are beautiful haven't changed that much. I would say that I was doing this podcast thing yesterday, and they asked that question about, what would you like to what would you like to play to your 18-year-old self? And I really don't like that idea, because the whole point of being 18, or the point of being 21, the whole point is that you don't know much, but you're really opinionated and you think you know everything. So if I'd have known in 1983, if I'd have known that Steely Dan, they have some pretty good songs,
Yeah, yeah.
the Commotions could have been ruined, because part of the essence of the Commotions was my anti-Steely Dan approach to the keyboards. I told Blair, none of those fucking 5-note chords with your right hand, 3 notes maximum on your right hand. No bloody 9th, 6th chords and 13th chords. Majors and minors and sevenths. That's all we're having. And like I said, and so I that way. So now I know Steely Dan have got some great songs and I love them, but I still hate the Steely Dan songs that I hated back then, like Babylon Sisters. I still think it's terrible. But so I guess my taste has expanded a little bit in certain directions, so it's wider. But it's also gone away in certain areas. Like, I'm not as interested in jazz as I was when I was younger. I feel like I still love the jazz records that I loved, but I do have this sneaky feeling that jazz is more fun to play than it is to listen to.
I think you could be right there. That sort of like minimalist approach though is something that has endured, because listening to the new music, it's a case of I don't know, to me, I feel like everything has a place. And Steely Dan's probably a really good example of elaboration.
Yeah, and I think, my aesthetic has always been, I've got no problem with having a wide palette, a wide harmonic palette, even on a recording. I just don't want the individual instruments playing that wide palette. That's why I'd rather listen to someone like Steve Reich, where you've got 16 people all playing very simple things that combine to make something which is very complex. But the beauty is in the orchestration. So I've a lot of time for listening to orchestral music, but I don't. But when you've got one guy with a piano trying to sound like an orchestra, like Keith Jarrett or something,
Yeah.
it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly how you feel. What sort of setup are you bringing over? What
Two,
what's
two,
it?
tele,
Sorry, two Telecasters.
two Telecasters.
Pedals?
Very, very, very few. One boutique reverb pedal from Norway, um, and a pedal called a Deco by Strymon, which simulates tape compression and distortion, which I've found is an easier way to fatten up the sound of a Fender amp rather than using a compressor and lots of very subtle distortion pedals. Can do it all with the one pedal. It sort of does compression and distortion at the same time. And obviously, you're not going to listen to me and think, oh, he's got a distortion on. But distortion just means that it doesn't sound thin.
Yeah. I love Warm by the Fire. I think that's probably one of my favorite songs of recent years. How far are you down the track to new material? I mean, I know it's some people go
Uh,
in cycles, others
not very,
collect.
not very far. I do know. Well, I've got maybe 4 or 5 pieces of music that I've been working for quite a long time trying to find lyrical ideas that work with them. And I think I've got 2 that I'm happy with. I think I just had an idea last week for an idea which might work with another one. So I don't expect that I'll have a record out until probably the beginning of the year after next.
Okay.
I think it'll take me. I think I might get a good chunk of it made this winter, but then I'll be working on tour in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, spring and the summer. So it probably won't be until the following winter that I'll have enough time to get it finished.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds
The
good.
thing is, I don't think there's any hurry anymore
Yeah.
for a new record by me. And if there's going to be a new record by me, it's got to be great.
Mm.
And I can't be putting out something that I'm not sure about, or I can't be investing a whole bunch of time into a project that I'm not even sure what the project is. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it was like. That was what it's like making mainstream. That's why it was so difficult,
Mm.
because we didn't really know what record we were making until we were about halfway through it. That's really no way to to make records.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like the best records I've made, or the ones I'm happiest with, are the ones that sound very much like the sound I had in my head before I recorded anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Perfect.
Rattlesnakes, I very much knew what I wanted it to sound like, and it sounds just like that. I remember when we got the string section in, and Lawrence went, "Oh no, you can't put fucking strings on it." I was like, "No, it's going to be great. I know it's going to be great," and I was right. Uh, and the same thing when I did music in a foreign language. I had this specific sound in my head that I basically, my idea was, what would it sound like if Massive Attack tried to make a folk record?
Well, you
um,
nailed it. Yeah.
so yeah,
Are we good for a couple more questions? I think we've run over slightly. I've just got two that I.
yeah, absolutely. We started 5 minutes late. Go,
Oh,
go for it.
cool. Yeah, I'll ask you three then, if that's okay. Has you sort of like over the years, has your understanding of your past songs shifted in any way? Do you ever look back and see things in songs that you've written maybe years before that you didn't realize were there?
Of course. I mean, there's a great quote by David Byrne about songwriting. He says, it's not until after the songs are finished, and sometimes up to a couple of years later, that
Mm.
he said, he uses the term "about," which I don't like. He's like, it's only years later that I know what a song is about. Um, Certainly, there are things that I see in songs, and certainly there are things that are in songs that other people have seen that I didn't deliberately put there. I just put the words there. I have this slightly controversial idea about literature, in that I don't really believe that writers write metaphors. I believe that writers put words on the page, and if the reader doesn't find the metaphor, then the writer didn't write one, did he?
Good point.
So I very rarely write with metaphor in mind, but sometimes I accidentally drop them in there.
Yeah. Good. I love that answer, and I think you're right. I'm actually looking forward to seeing both you and David next year, both on tour down under. That'll
Cool.
that'll be a classic. Two questions we always ask everyone when we talk to them for the first time, and I'm very surprised that over the years we've not crossed paths before. I think other people from the magazine have probably spoken to you previously. If you could have been a fly on the wall for the creation of any great rock and roll album from the history of rock and roll, and I guess we're going back to the 40s or 50s maybe, what would you love to have been there just to see being made, to have sort of been immersed in that experience?
Diamond Dogs.
Yeah.
Bowie's first record away from the Spiders. I think it's a monumental achievement. I think, even though it might not be my favorite Bowie record, I think it's his best record.
I think it's a wonderful record, but there are so many when you're talking
Yeah,
about money.
yeah.
Uh,
But how I would love to see. I mean, so many of those songs are clearly written on the piano,
yeah,
but he didn't have another guitar player working on the record other than the wah wah guitar on 1984. All the
yeah,
other guitar on the album's all Bowie,
yeah.
and he barely played any guitar on the other records. Ronson played all of it. So I'd love to have seen that, and I think that would have been a great time to see him, because he wasn't quite insane with the cocaine by then.
Yes. Yeah. I think it would have been the perfect time to see him.
Yeah.
And we always leave everyone with a really easy question. What is the meaning of life?
I think I think the idea of meaning, when we apply it to people thinking about like, oh, what does that song mean?
Yeah.
What is that song saying? Well, I think we should realize that the author really doesn't have anything to say about that, because the author's out of the equation when the listener's listening to it. So I think that if there's a meaning to life, then there are an infinite number of different meanings, because everybody is living their own life and finding their own meaning. And I don't have any interest in getting metaphysical with it beyond that point.
Yeah, I think you're right. Everything's different for everyone at different times in their life as well, and I think it's a constant flow. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this morning, Lloyd. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've managed not to cough or splutter
Yeah,
throughout
yeah,
the entire
yeah.
interview, so I've done all right.
You know, yeah, there is something quite sexy about the voice with the cold. So
Thank you so much, my friend. I can't wait to see you down under. Safe
you're
trip.
you're welcome. I'm looking forward to it.
Take
Cheers.
care.
Just
Bye.
one more to do today.
Ah, good on you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cheers.
Bye.